It's a real joy to be with you here today. The temple was the beating heart of Judaism in Jesus' day, the centre of worship and of music, of politics and society, of national celebration and mourning. It was the place where you would find more animals alive and dead than anywhere else. And towering above it all was, of course, the temple was the place where Israel's God, Yahweh, had promised to live in the midst of his people. It was the focal point of the nation and of the national way of life. And this was where the unknown prophet from Galilee came in and turned everything upside down. Now, I don't think this passage is just about the presence of money changers and animals in the temple courts. I mean, Jesus surely had to know they were there. He grew up as a faithful Jew going to the temple. I mean, I can't imagine he just turned up on this particular day and said, wow, look at all the traders in the temple courts. How terrible. This was how the temple worked. It was business as usual for them. And I wonder whether that's the crux of the matter. It was business as usual. During the isolation of COVID, many of us long to get back to business as usual. But what does it really mean to have business as usual? And is it always God's best? I mean, have you ever felt that you are on autopilot, just going through the motions? That could be business as usual. Have you ever smiled that I'm good and everything is fine smile, but behind it is sadness, emptiness? Maybe your heart is breaking. That can be business as usual. Ever been in a situation where boredom overcame creativity, where wonder, imagination, and enthusiasm have disappeared? That can be business as usual. Business as usual can happen in friendships, marriages, parenting, work, and church. Now, the things I've described are not the problem, but the symptom. Just like the money changers were not the problem. There was a symptom of something much deeper. So what can give rise to business as usual? Well, maybe when we're fearful about what is happening in our lives or uncertain of the future, we want security and predictability. We long to cling to the same old things. Business as usual seems predictable, steady. But business as usual only creates the illusion of security, leaving unaddressed what lies beneath. Perhaps it's grief and sorrow. When something precious is lost, we cling to business as usual because it is familiar. But is it healthy? Will it make us whole again? When life's turned into one task after another, after another, after another, maybe business as usual is all we can believe that we can do. But is this healthy? Will this bring us rest? So how can we avoid business as usual becoming the baseline for our lives? Now, there may be many reasons why we fall into the business as usual attitude to life, but I would like to suggest that forgetfulness is one of the major causes. In the circumstances of life, it can be easy to forget that we are God's children. We are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Therefore, we can never be alone. It's easy to forget that all of creation displays the presence and glory of God. He surrounds us. And when circumstances are tough, we can forget that God is for us. So who can be against us? As soon as we forget these things about ourselves, about others, and about the world, then life can slip into business as usual. I think that's what happened in the temple. Worship had become about the animals, the coins, the ritual. They had forgotten that God is far more interested in them than in their festivals or their offerings. Do you know, I love that we are shown time and time again in the Gospels, Jesus interrupting, disturbing, overturning business as usual. I mean, think of the Samaritan woman at the well. Think of the paralyzed man unable to reach the pool for his healing. Jesus interrupts, commands him to stand up, and the business of life was never the same again. Think of Lazarus. Jesus interrupts even the business of death, Lazarus, come out! Death no longer has the final word. And Jesus continues to overturn tables and interrupt our lives today. Because there are still women and men waiting at the well who are thirsty. There are still lame and hungry people wanting a touch to be healed. There are still the hungry physically and spiritually, longing to be filled and whole. Maybe today it is you who are thirsty. You are paralyzed and ground down with business as usual. Maybe the circumstances of life have left you feeling alone and empty. What do I need today? Are there tables that need to be overturned in the temple of our lives? Emptiness filled and hungers satisfied, so that we too can live lives that are very much not business as usual.